4977. That is the number to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. We want to hear from you on a Thursday. And there's excessive heat warning once again for the Rocket City. So stay cool on this Thursday. Try to beat the heat if you can. A lot of good stuff to get through today. And if you have 60,000, I wanted to say 600,000. But if you have $60,000 that you just want to spend or want to get rid of, and if you're an Alabama fan, we got a bargain for you.
Mm-hmm.
Keelan Robinson, who's now at Texas.
Yep, can't keep his mouth shut.
Has put his national championship, his 2020 Alabama College Football Championship ring set for sale for $60,000. If you got any kind of spare change lying around, you can get it all together. Get a pool together. Get a group together. I don't know. But $60,000, you can have the 3 rings: the national championship ring, the 2020 SEC championship ring. Yeah, it's all yours for $60,000.
Yeah, you get a college football playoff ring, you get an Alabama national championship ring, you get SEC. I don't understand why he got the rings, because basically he opted out and wasn't even with the team. I don't even think he practiced that year. They didn't ever announce it officially, but he was the only player, to my knowledge, that opted out of the season.
That was the COVID year.
Yeah, the COVID year. He did not play. So I was a little bit surprised that he even got the rings. Again, he didn't earn them, quite frankly. He didn't even practice. Like, if you're a guy that's still practicing, even if you're not playing, if you're redshirting, if you're just a scout team guy, then you still earn it. But to my knowledge, he wasn't even there. And so he wasn't even on campus. So they were generous. They gave him the rings.
Yeah.
And now he's trying to sell them for big money. Earlier in the, a few days ago, he basically said, he was quoted as saying to the effect of, "I know what them boys are doing. I know what we're doing here in Austin, and I know we can beat them." That's what he said about, the game coming up. He I guess he's going to be super motivated since he left the University of Alabama to go to Texas, but he didn't really play much last year. If you look at the statistics, Bijan Robinson was the guy that was their primary ball carrier and receiver out of the backfield.
And he's getting all the headlines, the preseason headlines, Heisman candidate, Heisman possible candidate, Bijan Robinson driving the Lamborghini. And he's the one cashing in.
Yeah. I don't, Keelan contributed a little bit, but he didn't do a ton. He may hit his stride this year, and he has ability, some explosive speed, but it's never translated. He made as a freshman at Alabama, he made a long touchdown run. He's from the state of Maryland. Many thought he might go home and play for Mike Loxley, who went there, but he decided to go to Texas due to the relationship with Steve Sarkisian. But we'll see if he becomes a bigger part of the offense. But I was a little bit surprised at what he said. To me, you kind of just keep quiet and keep your head down and work, because Texas has got a lot of improving to do. They lost to Kansas. I'll say that again. They lost to Kansas last year, who were letting people in the games for free. This was not a basketball game. This was football. They should be improved this year, because, heck, they can't get much worse, to me. So, but we'll see. They're going to have a lot of guys that are familiar with that program. Ajay Hall, Jaleel Billingsley, Keelan Robinson. So we will see. I don't know. If Texas can play with Alabama. I think they can. But I still think they're going to face an uphill battle. I kind of agree with most of the predictions I've seen around the 45-23 kind of score. And because I have a lot of respect for Steve Sarkisian as an offensive mind, being able to, help the quarterback, being able to call plays, being balanced, and being, committed to the running game. But I do think Alabama is much better than Texas still in all three phases. So we will see, but certainly, it's going to be interesting to see how much better Texas is in year 2 because they need to show significant improvement. I don't know that it's as much improvement as Auburn needs, and I've said 7 to 8 wins or Harsin would be gone. I don't think it would be that way for Sark, but I do think his seat would get extremely hot if they win, say, 6 or less games and have to back into a bowl game. I do think, though, they've probably got the talent through the transfer portal to potentially, win 8 games, but I don't think they're going to be a huge factor in the Big 12, and I really don't think they're going to, have a chance to beat Alabama in the fourth quarter.
So for $60,000, you can get your championship rings if you want it. So they're out there. All you got to do is search for it. It's not hard to find. The world famous pawn shop, Gold and Silver Pawn Shop, is where they're listed. So go ahead and spend a little bit of cash. And you alluded to Texas there. ESPN, they do this. And it's always worth fun mentioning because they change it as they get closer. They updated their FPI, their Football Power Index poll. And I only bring this up because it's pretty funny. And if some of these come to fruition, there's going to be a lot of fan bases that are going to be upset at their potential team this fall. Alabama number 1, Ohio State 2. No shock there. Alabama 11.5 wins or 11.4 wins. Ohio State 11.8. Projected loss 1.5 for the Tide, 1 for Ohio State. Georgia's in there at 11.6. Clemson 11-1. Those are the numbers. But what's interesting, Drew, is this has changed a little bit because they released this about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and the numbers have changed quite drastically for a couple programs. Most notably, they put the Oklahoma Sooners at 9 wins, not even double-digit wins for Oklahoma, the same as Texas. Texas is now at 9.3.
Interesting. They do think Texas is going to improve that much.
Yeah. But here's another one. This has gone down since we brought this before because we talked about how are they projecting double-digit wins. They haven't accomplished anything. If these numbers come true, the Texas A&M Aggie fan base is going to be rather upset. 7.4 is the projected win total now for Texas A&M. Down from 10. They were projecting them at double-digit wins. They've now shrunk that down to 7.4 with a 4.6 loss total.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little
wins.
bit yesterday that they were projected as a 7 to 8 win team, which is I think what they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be an elite team. I thought it was a joke when I saw some predictions and they were in the college football playoff. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why people were predicting their defense to be in the same realm as Alabama's. I know they bought every defensive lineman in the 2022 class, but I mean, they changed defensive coordinators. Mike Elko went to Duke. They got DJ Durkin from Ole Miss, and he did a pretty decent job at Ole Miss, but he's never been at ATM before. And they lost some coaches there. So I was a little bit surprised. DeMarvin Leal, who was supposed to be a 5-star and a lock first-round draft choice after being developed by Texas ATM, I think he was like a 4th-round pick. So he did not ever become the consistent dominant force. I know that's shocking to people that listen to this show, that somebody that Dirtneck signed didn't live up to the capability and wasn't developed properly. But DeMarvin Leal was supposed to be a completely dominant football player. He had a big-time touchdown against Alabama in 2020 when they claimed that they almost made the college football playoff, but they lost by 30 to Alabama, 30 to Alabama, 30 to Alabama. Which really they weren't
30 to Alabama.
Yeah, where they didn't 5 touchdowns, whatever it was. It was a scrimmage. They didn't come close to making the playoff. Okay, when you lose by 30 to somebody, I mean, you didn't deserve to be there, and
Right,
they didn't
right.
make it.
Again, that was the COVID year.
So yeah,
where
that
things
was the
were a little
COVID year.
different. Yep.
That's they had a good year that year because they got lucky because Clown Mullen blew the Florida game against them, just choked. It was kind of a thing. It was kind of I guess a foreshadowing of things to come with his career at Florida, where their program was going to fall apart. But again, I don't think they're going to be very good. We're going to talk to Brett Norsworthy, a guy I really respect, SEC historian, is going to join us at the top of the second hour from WHBQ Sports 56 in Memphis, Tennessee, co-host of Sports Time with Gabe Kuhn. We're going to talk to him and see what he thinks of Texas A&M, because I know in the past he said on this show that he's been waiting for 30 years for this juggernaut of Texas A&M to come to fruition. That's never happened. So I'd like to get his thoughts on that, and Texas really, and Steve Sarkisian, the Alabama-Texas matchup. How good is Ole Miss going to be? Because we know how aggressive they've been in the portal. Lane Kiffin has almost been king of the portal from the standpoint of how many guys he's added.
ESPN says 7.7 win total for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss.
If he wins 8 games, they'll be fine at Ole Miss. They're not going to raise a bunch of cane about that, especially if he beats Mike Leach and they win the Mississippi State Championship. And he went to the Sugar Bowl last year. Certainly he has to. They want him to win, and they're paying him over $7 million a year now, I believe.
Right.
But it's different sets of expectations, and Brett also does pre and post game for the IMG Ole Miss Radio Network, so we'll ask him about that. What are the expectations, kind of, for Lane Kiffin going into year 2?
They put LSU, Auburn, and Texas A&M pretty much in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of both of them, LSU has a smidge of a chance to be better, or LSU, my bad. Texas A&M and Auburn projected wins 7.4. LSU is 7.7. So they're pretty much in the same category. Miami is interesting. They say 9.2 now for Mario Cristobal. That is up from what it was before.
That's more of a reflection of how piss poor the league is in the ACC to me.
Alabama, a 79.5% chance to make the playoffs, 51% chance to make the national title game, 30% chance to win the whole thing. Those are the best winning percentages of any team in the country. Ohio State has a 27% chance of winning the national championship, and Georgia has a 24% chance to win the national championship. And the only other team with a double-digit percentage chance, according to ESPN's updated rankings, is Clemson at 10%. So they're saying Dabo Swinney and company will rebound from what was a disaster season for them under their standards last year. They're going to find everything again, despite losing Brent Venables.
Yeah, that's I'm very interested. I said that yesterday. I mean, Dabo replaced a lot of assistant coaches the last 3 seasons. Jeff Scott left, Tony Elliott's left, the co-OCs. Now Brent Venables has left, and he's promoted from within pretty much in all these situations. And it's going to be interesting. Todd Bates goes to Oklahoma with Venables, the D-line coach, to see how good Clemson is. Now they got Nick Eason, former Clemson Tiger and NFL D-line coach, who was with Auburn last year, who's come over there, and he may be about to make a huge splash with Peter Woods at Thompson High School tomorrow, who's going to commit 5-star from the state of Alabama. A lot of speculation that he's going to choose Clemson. So certainly, though, Dabo's had a lot of coaching staff turnover after keeping his staff intact for the better part of a decade. A lot of those guys staying and being paid very well. But again, eventually, with the level of success they've had, you're going to lose coaches, and they certainly did. Brent Venables, like Kirby Smart, was very patient. He turned down Auburn. He turned down multiple opportunities to be a head coach, and finally decided to go back to Oklahoma. I know Kansas State's really where it started. He's a Bill Snyder guy, but as you know, he had an extensive history with OU and Bob Stoops. He helped them win that 2000 national championship against Florida State, and so he was a big part of that and stayed for a long time before leaving to go to Clemson and run the defense himself. He and Mike Stoops were kind of the co-DCs there, and now I believe Mike at Kentucky, helping out his brother. So it's going to be interesting, Mark Stoops. So it's going to be interesting to see how Brent Venables does, no doubt about it. And again, it's just interesting because Steve Sarkisian, when he went to Texas last year, 5-7. I want to correct something. This is actually Lane Kiffin's going into his third year at Ole Miss because he actually did. He was there in the COVID year at Ole Miss. If you remember, he played the mind games with Nick Saban when they went over to
they warmed up separately.
In Ole Miss. They warmed up in the indoor facility and then weren't out on the field. And then they actually played Alabama tough. I mean, Alabama won the game and scored 60-plus points, but Ole Miss, for I guess you could say, for all over three quarters, matched them score for score. But Alabama finally pulling away.
That was not Alabama's finest defensive moments.
No,
in that game.
Pete Golding took a lot of heat for that because of the way Lane's offense performed. But again, Alabama won the game. They really couldn't stop Alabama. They had one turnover when Mo, Larry, and Curley basically allowed a fumble to be called against Najee Harris, which was, I don't know, seemed to me like 5 minutes after they should have blown the whistle for forward progress, or Alabama would have scored 70 points. I think they scored 63, but Ole Miss could not stop them. But Lane had a good offensive plan. I think they scored nearly 50 on Alabama, and I think that's why a lot of people thought last year in Tuscaloosa, some thought Ole Miss had a chance to beat Alabama, but we know what happened. Yeah. Lane took some gambles on fourth down, about 4 of them. They all backfired on him, and they ended up getting blown out. And really, even though Ole Miss had a really good year last year comparatively and went to the Sugar Bowl, they were disappointed. They didn't play well against the state of Alabama teams. Let's put it this way: they didn't play well at Alabama, and they didn't play well at Auburn.
All right, 256-576-4977. That's the number to the Neighbors Wealth Management hotline, and kind of alluded there a little bit about the offense. Does having one of the nation's best offenses right now guarantee that you will win a national championship? Over the last 10 seasons, having one of the best offenses gets you near the top, but does it necessarily guarantee you a national championship? Just found this very interesting. In 2021, Georgia wins the national championship. We know that. Georgia averaged 38.6 points per game per contest. That was 9th best in the country. In 2020, when Alabama won the national championship, Alabama's offense actually ranked 2nd in the country, not even number 1, at 48.5 points per game. Since 2010, there's only been one team that has had the number 1 ranked offense and has won the national championship, and that was LSU in 2019 with 48.4. In 2017, when Alabama won the national title, their offense actually only ranked 15th best in the country. They
played the wrong quarterback, that's why.
In 2015, when Alabama won the national title, their offense only ranked 30th in the country. And in 2012, when they won the national title, their offense actually only ranked 12th best in the country. Florida State in 2013 and Alabama in 2020 both had the 2nd best offenses. But having the best offense, the most prolific offense in college football that season doesn't generally guarantee you're going to win a national title. When we come back, we'll talk more about that and set the stage for 2023. What's in store? More on Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
still may have the remnants of an accident at Greenbrier and Old Highway 20. They upgraded that one to a minor injury status. Other than that, we're clear. Had one at Ardmore, 65 southbound, that should be out of the way. Need a temp or an addition to your staff? Snelling specializes in admin, accounting, and medical placement. Snelling, how Huntsville's best companies hire talent. 256-382-4000. Captain Nick in the Jordan Lane, Popeyes, Skywatch Traffic Center.
Ann Adams with Berkshire Hathaway Rise Real Estate is the one name to know if you're buying or selling real estate. With years of local experience, Ann Adams offers buyers in-depth knowledge of the local housing market and will narrow available properties down to those you'll be interested in so you can save time when shopping for your new home. If you're ready to sell, Ann offers a seamless process using accurate pricing and expert negotiation skills to make sure you get a fair price for your home. Call Ann Adams today at 256-337-2625 or log on bhhsriserealestate.com.
When I chose a garage door company, I did my homework. I needed Precision Overhead Garage Door Service. They have a 5-star Google rating. I checked their reviews and liked what their customers had to say. Precision Overhead Garage Door has lifetime warranty packages. Same-day service if I call before 2 p.m. If they can't make it the same day, my service call fee the next day is waived. They did a 25-point safety inspection on the door and operator. Now that's peace of mind. Residential, commercial, and gate services. Precision Overhead Garage Door Service. Call 256-400-4500.
The world champs are back. The Braves are out to defend their world championship. And behind Matt Olson, Ronald Acuna, Dansby Swanson, Max Fried, and this loaded 2022 roster, a repeat is within reach.
There goes Ozzie, 2-2 on the way, hit well. Deep center field. Might have ourselves a tie ball game. You betcha.
And we'll bring you every huge moment of the Braves 2022 season right here on the Atlanta Braves Radio Network.
DQ presents the sound of a summer double play. It's the sound of drumstick pieces and peanuts combined with world-famous soft serve to make 2 all-star treats. The drumstick with peanuts blizzard and new caramel drumstick with peanuts blizzard. Grab one today or get it delivered at DQ.com. Official treat of MLB. DQ. Happy tastes good.
SportsMed is the official team physicians of the Rocket City Trash Pandas. And if the pros trust SportsMed, you can too. SportsMed provides every service you might need for complete orthopedic care, specializing in orthopedic surgery, sports medicine, joint replacement, spine surgery, neurosurgery, and podiatry. And they offer their own brace shop, in-house full-body MRI, physical therapy, walk-in clinic, and so much more. 4 locations and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com.
Tom Luganville here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
Are you in the market for a recreational vehicle? Do you want to get out and see more of this beautiful country? Well, imagine hearing the laughter of your little ones enjoying gooey s'mores by a cozy campfire and making lasting memories with your friends and family from the comfort of a new camper. We can make your dreams come true at Hall's RV. With over 15 years in the camping business, we know how to get our customers into the perfect camper. We have several models and floor plans here for you to choose from, both new and used. We're family owned and operated with fantastic deals and great service. Everyone wants to work with people they can trust, so come on down to Hall's RV and get the deal of a lifetime. We'll treat you right and get you on the road in the camper of your dreams. Visit us on Highway 431 in Albertville. Hall's RVs, where we sell fun. Or see us on the web at www.hallsrvsales.com.
This is Paul Feinbaum. Listen to me coming up today at 2. Now back to Talking Ball with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Indeed, welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. It's a big day in the state of Alabama. Big day in the state of Alabama. Tonight in Birmingham, you get the opening ceremonies for the World Games.
That's why the
arrived.
USFL was in Canton in the championship game because of the enormity of this event coming to Birmingham.
So some of the games that you're going to be treated to, obviously, these are sports that are not on the Olympic stage. These are, some people are calling them cast-off sports or sports that just aren't good enough to make it to the Olympic Games. Baseball and softball are a part of the World Games because they are not a part of the Olympics.
Once again, they've been dropped from the Olympics.
Yeah.
It's kind of been a up and down like roller coaster deal.
Yep. And so Team USA, I believe they played they played an exhibition game the other night in Oxford, did Team USA.
Yeah.
And but Japan, two of the best softball powerhouses, Japan and Team USA, they'll be there baseball wise. They're here. Bodybuilding, you get bodybuilding, bowling, canoe, fistball, floorball.
Okay, now wait a minute. Now you've taught me what pickleball is and some of this stuff, but what the hell is that? Fistball. I've never heard of it.
Fistball is a very German sport.
Yeah.
6 out of the 9 gold medals have gone to the German team.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can.
I've just never heard of it.
Let's see if we can pull up. I'm trying to. It says learn more about fistball here. I have no idea. It's 2 teams consisting of 5 players each. They play against each other on a court, which is divided into 2 halves by a marked line and a net or rope at a height of 2 meters for men and 1.9 meters for women. Each team's aim is to strike the ball across the net in a way that the opponent fails to return. Oh,
that sounds like some sort of offshoot of volleyball in a way.
But I guess you're using your hands. I don't know that one very well. You got floorball, flying disc.
Is that like a disc golf thing? Flying disc? I don't know.
No, it's not. It looks basically like ultimate frisbee kind of thing. I think they just call it flying disc. I think that's what that sport looks like right there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got korfball.
Okay, I give up.
That is, I'm looking at a picture of that one. That one I don't know about it. I have no idea about that one. You got life swing, netball, powerlifting, racquetball, rugby, squash, sumo wrestling, surfing, tug of war, underwater sports, wushu.
Okay.
I don't know. Those are some of the sports from the World Games. That is what's going on tonight. You get the opening ceremonies there at Protective Stadium in Birmingham, the World Games.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big time. It's a big deal for the state of Alabama. Big time.
Been hearing about it for 2 years. Got a free hat when I was doing the softball state tournament a couple years ago. They were giving out hats and telling everybody to be on the look for the World Games coming to Birmingham. It was being promoted, so been hearing about it. Going to be interested to see how it goes. It's a major boon, I guess, to the economy for Birmingham. So good for them. And I know we need to go out to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Our good friend Richard is waiting to join the show. Richard, we were just discussing some of the World Games. What's going on? How are you?
Hello.
Hey, how are you, man?
Hey, good.
What do we got, Richard?
Hey, just want to talk ball with you guys. You guys don't have any free sumo wrestling tickets then?
There's a guy from here.
We have a local
from Huntsville.
tie.
Yeah, used to be on the Huntsville Police Department. Now he's a member of the State Troopers Association that just wanted to start sumo wrestling and actually ended up working his way, I think within 3 years, to Team USA and is going to be there at the World Games from Alabama, from here. He lives over in Guntersville and trains here in Huntsville and will be a part of the World Games sumo wrestling team.
That's great, then. Yeah, I was actually in Japan, and we went to my wife and I went to the sumo wrestling museum, and one of the guys actually walked out of the, I guess he'd been practicing. I'll see through the picture once I get to my office here later. No, I was going to talk about Texas ATM, as Drew calls them. One thing on all the 5-stars, you got to think it's going to take a couple of years for most of those guys to produce.
You would think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got a perfect example of Alabama. I mean, it took, going to blank on his name, it took him like 5 games, our big defensive end, to, linebacker to, produce.
You're talking about Will Anderson?
Yeah.
Yeah, his freshman year? Yeah, because people were talking about that a little bit, yeah.
I mean, you got a guy that's going to be the number 1 draft pick, and it took him 5 games to figure it out. So, you can sign all you want, but like I said, it's going to be their sophomore or junior years before they really produce most of them. A wide out or a running back can produce, immediately. The defensive linemen and the linebackers a lot of times take, a year, several, games or a year, to get going.
Well, you sign about what? Let's just say you sign 15 guys in a class. You bring in 15 guys and 5, let's just say 5 or 5-star, 4 stars. Of those 5 or even of those 15, generally you get maybe 2 at best, 2 or 3 freshmen, depending on who come in. I mean, it could be any position that come in and actually contribute in their first years, like truly contribute. You get guys that come in spot wise and do things, but to say that they fully contribute out of a 15-member class, as for an example, maybe you get 2 or 3 at best.
Well, I mean, a good example is Alabama last year. Like Drew talks, JoJo Earl played some, but not, anything great. Like I said, I can't think of. Trying to think, the transfer, did great, but I'm just trying to think of a freshman that made a gigantic impact last year.
Well, I don't think last year.
Kool-Aid would have been one now.
But that by the end of the year, though, and that was mainly due to injury because Jalen Armour-Davis got hurt, Josh Jobe got hurt, so Kool-Aid was pushed to the forefront. Kyrie Jackson was a junior college transfer; he had to play. But usually, you're right. It's not really like. I'll give an example. A guy that I still think is going to be a great player, Deontay Lawson. He did not play a whole lot for Alabama last year. May not play a ton this year. Depends on what happens with Jalen Moody and if he can take this opportunity and run with it. If they will linebacker slot, so it's going to be really interesting to see. But I tend to agree with you. There's not a lot of defensive linemen. Even Tim Smith. Tim Smith did not play a lot at Alabama his freshman year, played some situationally. So I'm going to be interested to see how many of these Texas A&M guys actually contribute and get on the field early. I'll be honest, we always used to – the $6 million question for Alabama was always about Ben Davis from Gordo. He was a 5-star. He never played a lot at Alabama. I checked his stats at Texas last year because, Scott, we didn't mention that one, but he transferred to Texas from Alabama last year.
Yeah.
He got the most playing time of his 5 years because he redshirted at Alabama. But I believe last year was his senior year. He made 16 tackles, which was more than he had made at Alabama in his career, and he had 2.5 sacks. So he had a decent year for Texas, but he never became still a frontline player. One of the nicest kids I've ever interviewed, such a well-spoken young man. Of course, his dad, Wayne Davis, still the all-time leading tackler, I believe, at the University of Alabama. But still, it's just interesting how some guys develop. And that's an NIL situation because if Ben had come out, last year or in that class, he probably would have got a lot of NIL interest because he would have been a 5-star coming in. It's just, but there's no guarantees that these guys are going to play up to that level. For every Will Anderson, there's a Ben Davis who struggles, or an Antonio Alfano, or somebody like that who's Calvin Ashley at Auburn who doesn't live up to it.
Well, and that too, because when these freshmen hit the campus, their freshman year, yes, they may be early enrollees, but adjusting to school life, adjusting to structure, adjusting to the speed of the game,
Shark
adjusting
Tank,
to go to campus,
a small fish in a
class,
big pond,
to do everything. I mean, there's a million things that they have to learn to go through. You got to get up and go to class. You got to study. You got to do a million different things. Their head is going so fast and spinning so fast. It takes them time to adjust and get ready.
Yeah, that's like I said, and two, you may even be a 5-star and be good, but a lot of times, the strength. And one thing too is, just knowing, to stay in your lane, you can't play 4 or 5 freshmen at one time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Alabama, they may make a stack one play, but they're going to make mistakes the next 3 plays.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and Alabama with Nick Saban's got the best head coach in the country, and usually has as good a coaching staff, if not the best, in college football. And that's where I'm not as sold on Texas A&M. And we already made the mention, they did lose some coaches. They paid Mike Elko very well. He did a nice job with them defensively. Now they've got DJ Durkin. How is that transition going to go with Dirtneck and Jimbo Fisher? So I don't know. I'm just not sold on them. The quarterback situation, is it going to be Haynes King, who's received a lot of hype? People forget Max Johnson's there, who beat them at LSU in Ed Ogeron's last stand. I think it may have been Ed Ogeron's last game. He threw a late touchdown because I was listening to it with our program director Steve Moulton, and I was just laughing my head off when listening to the LSU radio network go bonkers because they threw the late touchdown to beat Texas A&M, which meant that Dirtneck had lost 4 games again and went 4-4 in the league, and then decided not to play against Wake Forest because they probably would have lost to a basketball school in a bowl game.
Yeah, I like Johnson, but he's got pretty good experience out, but like I said, still, I just think a lot of these guys aren't going to be ready to produce at the level that I guess you would say for what you've paid for.
Well,
so
yeah, you're right, Richard. It's going to be interesting. It's just like the NFL too. I mean, Scott and I haven't brought it up, but Baker Mayfield finally traded. He's traded to Carolina, which everybody talked about for months was probably going to be his landing spot. He's traded for a 5th-round pick. Think about that. Just a few years ago, he was the first pick in the draft, number 1 overall, and it depreciates to a 5th-round pick.
He is only the 3rd quarterback picked number 1 overall.
Yeah.
Since 1967, the last 4 or fewer seasons
with an organization
with the team that drafted him. Only the 3rd quarterback.
Wow.
This is 1967.
Crazy.
So it is. So no, I just wanted to kind of give my viewpoint on A&M, and like I said, I'm not going to say they won't be good in 2 or 3 years, but like I said, most of these classes it takes to get all these guys producing or a high percentage of them a couple of years.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how it's judged with NIL now about guys and how long it takes them to get rolling.
Yeah, Drew, do you think the kid from Mississippi that's committed to Ole Miss is going to commit, basically decommit from Ole Miss and commit to Alabama?
Are you talking about Sertain Perkins?
Yeah.
I think so. I've heard for a long time that Alabama coveted him, and I know he committed early to Ole Miss and is considered the top prospect in the state, but he's got a chance to play for Alabama. I think Alabama's recruiting board has changed even this early dramatically due to NIL because, again, you think you may have some guys committed or a really good shot to bring them in, and then NIL plays a factor. There was even a report last night about the Riley LaGuire kid that Alabama was thought to lead for in Georgia, but now Mario Cristobal in Miami are making a very aggressive take for him. He's still not officially visited Miami, but he's been on their campus, and we all know what John Ruiz is doing with NIL. He's being very aggressive. It's not a stretch to say they're this year's version of Texas A&M, where they're going out and being the most aggressive with NIL and trying to bring in talent because they have to. I mean, I've said it on the show this week. Miami has been irrelevant for a long time, but Mario Cristobal has always been a great recruiter, NIL or not. And now that he's got a guy like Ruiz that's backing him, and it's not illegal, even though I do think it's unethical to give these kids money up front, they're trying to get talent, and Mario Cristobal is trying to establish this program, and they're being aggressive. And so they're going out basically buying kids. Kids are taking it hook, line, and sinker. But the one thing I'll say about Mario, as much respect for him as I have as a recruiter, he's going to have to improve his game day coaching. No question about that.
One thing on Miami, say versus A&M, I don't know whether it's sustainable to keep.
Yeah. All right, Richard. Thanks for the phone call there. Kind of breaking up. We'll move on. Richard he's talking about exactly what you were talking about yesterday, and that is the sustainability
of NIL and the way it's
going on and getting all these
up.
Kids. What's the sustainability?
I don't think it is sustainable. And some think it's the end of college sports. I don't. College sports are too important. It's not like college sports are going to end, okay? It's going to be regulated by the government. Things can be changed. They are all the time. Hell, it's the reason NIL's in existence is because of Ed O'Bannon's aggressiveness, because of all those video games that used to come out, Scott. College basketball, college football, and yet they'd use the team names, UCLA, Alabama, whatever it is, but they couldn't use the names of the players due to them being NCAA athletes. Now that you could create players that say look like Ed O'Bannon or look like David Palmer and all that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of referencing Bill Walsh College Football, which is one of the first ones by EA Sports years ago.
Sega Genesis.
There you go. But you couldn't use the names of the players. Now you can because of this NIL stuff, and I think that's why college football is about to come back. But again, Ed O'Bannon and his lawyers, they want a landmark case, and so now these kids are getting compensated not just for cost of attendance, because cost of attendance had come into account. But I just think, though, the upfront stuff, this was not when people were talking about NIL and name, image, and likeness. They weren't talking about, okay, Malachi Nelson's showing up to practice in a $78,000 Mercedes and telling everybody that he bought his mother a $2,000 purse because some scumbag agent from California has, worked an NIL deal for him. That's not how it's supposed to work. You're not supposed to be doing that in high school, bro.
All right, let's get a break in. When we come back, we'll talk more recruiting, talk more Texas A&M, talk more SEC football. Got a lot of good stuff to get to. 256-576-4977. That's the number for the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
We're still rolling along in good shape this morning. Had some accidents earlier, but they should all be out of the way. We are dealing with a heavy traffic load. You be safe on the rest of your trip in this morning. Dr. Sandman has the Somnodent, a safe, insurance-approved alternative for snoring and sleep apnea. Dr. Randall Sandlin, 350-CARE. Captain Nick in the 72 and Jeff, Popeye Skywatch Traffic Center.
The boys of summer are heating up. The Atlanta Braves are locked in and ready. And the Braves Radio Network's making sure you don't miss a single moment.
2-1 pitch. There's a missile. Deep right. Back towards the corner. Damage done by Matt Olson.
Tonight, Truist Park comes alive for Ronald Acuna, Matt Olson, and your Atlanta Braves as they take on the St. Louis Cardinals in Atlanta. Braves Radio's on the air at 6:05 Eastern, 5:05 Central on the Braves Radio Network.
McCurry Motors is your car and van rental headquarters. You can rent the vehicle you need today. Family in town, sporting event, church function, no matter what your need, McCurry Motors has you covered with a wide selection of cars and vans available for rent. They have 12-passenger Mercedes Sprinter vans, 12-passenger Ford Transit vans, 15-passenger Ford Transit vans, and 15-passenger Chevrolet Express vans. They have 2 locations, Highway 72 in Athens or Max Luther Drive in Huntsville.
By now, you know that sound. It's the sound of the Home Depot. But what about those sounds? Those are the sounds of a new laundry set that provides a powerful yet gentle clean in less time, making this the sound of savings on top brand appliances. The Home Depot. How doers get more done. Get up to 25% off plus $750 instant savings on select appliances. Valid June 22nd through July 13th. U.S. only. Gas dryer extra. See store for details.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
A wise man once said, "If you take care of old folks and children, everything in the middle will take care of itself."
Hi, I'm Danny Aldridge, lawyer in Alabama and Tennessee. In the next 20 years, the number of those folks over 65 years of age will more than double. In our golden years, the most important goal is to be treated with dignity and have control over doing what makes you grateful with those you love. At the Aldridge Law Firm and the Legal Town Center, we're dedicated to help you with these goals, and we'll be there when life throws you those inevitable curveballs. Let us assist you with your legal needs, whatever they may be or become. You may reach us by phone at 256-534-3188 or online with Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Just remember, we're here to help. Whether it's personal injury, wrongful death, fraud and cheat, or estate planning made complete, we're here to help.
Download our app today. Just search 97.7 ESPN.
It's water and dust resistant.
That's 977 ESPN. We are 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
And that's it.
This segment of Talkin' Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com.
Welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. And during that break, we were talking about collectives and NIL stuff in a positive way, because several schools across the country have gone to do these NIL clubs. And I know Auburn is doing one. I know there's other schools in the SEC. There's schools in the Big Ten that are doing it. And here is what they're doing. And this I don't have a problem with. You pay X amount of dollars for a year. Basically, we got people right now. Well, you were a member of the Red Elephant Club, right?
I still am. Yeah.
Right. So
I'll
basically, you pay
that.
an annual due to be a member.
Yeah, per
of
year.
That. So
per year.
basically, what these schools are doing now, these players are doing, is they've formed together, and you pay an annual dues, $200 or whatever it is, and annually, it's an annual pass. And it gets you access to a meet and greet with the team, access to player-created content. It gives you an online community to engage with the players so you can talk to the players online, and you get a members-only tailgate for all the games. It's like $200 a year. That is what some of these schools, now it's for only the players that are doing it. All of the money that goes into these NIL player clubs goes to the players that are taking part in it. So if you do it for $200 a year and you get 20 players, however many people that do it, that money gets divided up between the 20 players. So to me, that there is positive for the NIL. That's a positive.
Well, I mean, it's based upon kind of how I thought it would work when they designed it. It wasn't that shows that they're dividing it amongst the player in the entirety of the roster, because it's you just
whoever
talked
wants
about
to participate.
Whoever
in
wants
this,
to, yeah, which would probably be almost every player.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, because you're getting money and you're getting a chance to put and create value for yourself, put your name, image, and likeness out there. We've seen it on the Alabama football Twitter account with High Tide Traditions. Or excuse me, I will say this: it's on the High Tide Traditions account. Let me rephrase that, because again, High Tide Traditions technically is not. It's affiliated with the university, but it's not people employed by the university. But they can go ahead and publicize when they sign a player. Okay, and so they've done that quite a bit. Like we've seen young guys like a Ty Simpson sign with them, which means it's exactly what you're talking about, Scott. It's a collective that they do for everybody on the team. Gives you opportunities to create value for yourself. Perhaps put out a t-shirts, a clothing line, whatever. whatever opportunities these businesses allow you to have. It's the business model that Alabama's using, and that's very similar, I think, to what Iowa's doing.
Auburn has the same player-only one where it's just the players are managing it. The players have taken control of it, and you sign up and you spend this. I mean, that is, to me, this is the positive one. When I saw this come out the other day, I was like, okay, this is the positive side. We talk a lot about the negative side. We've talked a lot about schools that are using the collectives to lure kids in there, strengthen their recruiting classes, the Miamis, the Texas A&Ms. We've talked a lot about the negative side of the NIL, but rarely do we mention the positive side that can come with it, and this is one of those positives. Staying with the positive side, we've got just a few minutes left here in hour number one. The Atlanta Braves taking on the St. Louis Cardinals at home last night. Max Fried on the mound. He did leave early with tightness in his
after the sixth inning.
Area. But Brian Snitker says, don't worry about it. It's nothing to be worried about. He's going to be fine for his next start. A lot of it was just precautionary reasons to get him out of the game.
I wondered because he was pretty dominant for 6 innings, and he was under 100 pitches. So I thought we might see him for the 7th. I didn't think we'd be like a complete game situation, but I thought, okay, they may try to get 7 out of him and then go to the bullpen for a couple of innings. But then Darren O'Day came out there. Now that explains why he left early after 6, after being so dominant against the Cardinals. But again, the Braves aren't going to take any chances. They had a 3-0 lead. They felt pretty good about it. The bullpen, for the most part, has been good. They've been doing a closer by committee thing, basically with A.J. Minter and Will Smith. Minter closed it last night, did a nice job. Now, there was a little bit of a hairy situation, with in the 8th inning that they had to get out of a jam, no doubt about it. But, again, I think the Braves did a nice job. They pitched well. They hit back-to-back home runs with Marcell Ozuna and Everyday Eddie. Scott, he was 3, I think, for 44 or something to that effect in April before he went on the DL with the retina situation and had to have the eye surgery to correct his vision. Since he got back, he started all 3 games against the Cardinals. He's already got 3 hits. So he's looking like the Eddie Rosario of old. It's like getting a trade deadline acquisition. So I think it's big for Atlanta to get his bat back in the lineup, especially with Adam Duvall having a little bit of an injury situation and not swinging the bat as well as usual.
Yeah.
It's big for Atlanta to have a kind of a platoon situation, certainly with Eddie Rosario and Adam Duvall.
Austin Riley saying after the game the other day that he and the rest of the team felt like early on, because the Braves do not resemble the team that started the year. This is a completely different team. They're playing with a lot of confidence. They're playing with a lot of swagger a little bit out there. But Austin Riley said they were just trying to do too much, too fast. They thought they had to win every game on every pitch, win every game on every swing. And he felt like they were pressing too much. They weren't relaxing. They weren't just letting the game come to them. And over this last month and a half, he just felt like they've just kind of let everything come to them. They're playing a little looser, and they're not trying to do too much with every pitch. They're just trying to play the game. And the Braves have had this success, and they've not caught the Mets, but they're only 2 games behind the Mets.
Oh, they've made up tons of ground in just really a month and what they did in June.
And keep in mind, though, think about this, though. Right now, the Mets, the Braves, and the Phillies, because there's the expanded playoffs.
Yeah.
All 3 of those teams right now would be headed to the playoffs in the NL East. The Mets, the Braves, and the Phillies.
And the Braves already proved last year because of the trades they made for Everyday Eddie and getting Adam Duvall back, getting Jock Peterson, no doubt about it, and making those acquisitions that they made to bolster their ball club, that it doesn't matter about your record as long as – because they made a point like, I know you're a Cub guy. You grew up in Iowa. You were going to Cubs games.
Yeah.
When they made all those trades last year to bolster their offense, they and the Cubs had the exact same record. The Cubs decided to finally throw in the towel and rebuild and start trading off the pieces.
Yeah, because they were not going to be able to resign Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo.
Yeah,
they were not going to be able to resign everyone there, so they just decided to throw in the towel.
Yeah, and the Braves also got Jorge Soler, who was the World Series MVP. The Braves decided to go for it, and still, even with Acuna being hurt, some people thought, well, are they going to continue to try to win? They did. The Cubs decided to completely rebuild. You talked about the Cubs struggling this year. They're trying to get back on track. The Braves are still reaping the benefits and now have had a guy like Michael Harris develop. They held on to Contreras, who's the backup catcher, who's got 10 home runs. So, and then they had to make the trade. They had to, of course, jettison Freddie Freeman. Nobody wanted to see that or let him go. But Matt Olson has certainly done a nice job filling in for him.
You know, it's funny. When Freddie came back to Atlanta, we were talking about, the Braves fans were like, we need Freddie back. We need Freddie back. Freddie goes back to L.A. We haven't heard that talk in the last week or so. Hour 2 coming up next.
This is Wes Neighbors talking to Chris Haygood of Bob Wallace Appliance. Chris, what sets you apart from other appliance dealerships?
Wes, these appliances are going into the most used room in your house, your kitchen. The way we have these appliances displayed, it's easy for you to visualize how they'll look in your home. Wes, what sets us apart is the people. They're well-trained. In fact, they live and breathe these appliances. And if you need service, you'll really appreciate our parts department.
Contact Bob Wallace Appliance at 256-533-2121.
You've got to experience Toyotathon at Bill Penny Toyota. They've got the selection with over 700 new Toyotas to choose from. And they've got the extras with Bill Penny perks and a 10-year unlimited warranty. So get on over to Bill Penny Toyota today and experience Toyotathon. Bill Penny Toyota in Huntsville and online at BillPennyToyota.com. Bill Penny's Toyota 10-year unlimited warranty is valid through the 10th year of ownership. Valid on new vehicles only. See dealer for details.
WZZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
We're still rolling along in good shape this morning. Had some accidents earlier, but they should all be out of the way. We are dealing with a heavy traffic load. You be safe on the rest of your trip in this morning. Dr. Sandman has the Somnodent, a safe, insurance-approved alternative for snoring and sleep apnea. Dr. Randall Sandlin, 350-CARE. Captain Nick in the 72 and Jeff, Popeye Skywatch Traffic Center.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. A partly sunny sky this afternoon. An isolated shower is possible through the heart of the afternoon, early into the evening. But that small opportunity for a little bit of rain does not at all take away from the fact that it is going to be an incredibly hot day across the Tennessee Valley. Once again, temperatures climbing into the mid and upper 90s. Heat indices somewhere between 105 and 110 degrees. Dropping just into the mid 70s as we head into the overnight. A rinse and repeat process for your Friday. Partly sunny sky, temperatures hanging out in the mid and upper 90s. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
This is Brent Musburger's VSiN Action Update on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
John Rahm, Justin Thomas, and Scotty Scheffler each had plus 1,200 odds. Co-favorites to win the Genesis Scottish Open underway today. Xander Schauffele at plus 1,600. Matthew Fitzpatrick at plus 2,000. The Open Championship next week. Rory McIlroy plus 900. Rahm, Thomas, and Scheffler plus 1,200. The Alabama Crimson Tide favorite to win the College Football Playoff National Championship for 2022 plus 200 odds. Other SEC teams near the top include Georgia at plus 475, Texas A&M plus 2,200, Florida and LSU each at plus 6,600. Braves a minus 208 moneyline favorite against the Cardinals again tonight, plus 160 for St. Louis, 9 your set total. Red hot winning picks at experts.winnersandwhiners.com. Save 75% on any best bet package with the promo code ACTION75. That's ACTION75 at experts.winnersandwhiners.com.
I'm Trey Westerberg, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Log on today, 97.7ESPN.com. Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball 97.7 ESPN The Zone. It is hour number 2. We are underway on this Thursday morning. Got 58 more minutes of goodness for you on this Thursday. And we were talking about that ESPN Football Power Index poll. They're sitting the Rebels for Ole Miss at 7.7. LSU at 7.7, Auburn 7.4, Texas A&M 7.4. So while we think Alabama will be the cream of the crop again in the West, behind Alabama could be interesting. Is it going to be LSU under Brian Kelly in his first year? Is it going to be Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher assessing to that second spot? Is Brian Harsin and company going to rebound? Is Sam Pittman in Arkansas going to continue to improve? Who lines up behind Alabama there in the SEC West?
It definitely really was Ole Miss. They went to the Sugar Bowl. You know, Matt Corral's injury really derailed and they would have had a really good shot at winning that Sugar Bowl for the second time, but they weren't able to do that. He got hurt. Now he's with the Carolina Panthers. We've already mentioned them with Baker Mayfield, but he had a great career under Lane Kiffin going into year 3. They've been super aggressive in the portal. And one of my favorite people is now with us. It's been a while since we've caught up with him, but he does a great job for Sports Radio 56 WHBQ in Memphis, Tennessee. He and Gabe Kuhn, they co-host the daily radio program. It's called Sports Time from 3 to 6, Monday through Friday. I've been a part of that show. It's been an honor as always, and it's always great to catch up with our next guest. And that's Brett Norsworthy, and he's going to also a part of the, as I said, pre and post game in the first hour of the Ole Miss Radio IMG network, and he's going to join us now on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline to talk some SEC and Ole Miss. Brett, it's great to have you back here in Huntsville on 97.7 The Zone's Talking Ball. You're Drew and Scott. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Very, very, very kind, Drew, and great to be with you and Scott. And opening day for the Rebels is against the Huntsville native as the Ole Miss plays Troy and John Summerall.
Yeah, we just had Coach on the other day. We were talking about that. Yeah, he's such a high energy guy. As you know, you got to know him. He was at Ole Miss.
Yeah,
was a inside linebackers coach. Really good recruiter. He just turned 40. This past week, and so he's super excited about this opportunity. We thought when the job came open, because of the success he had there under Neil Brown before Neil Brown went to West Virginia, that he had a shot to get the job. He did, and now his first game will be at Ole Miss. His first home game is against Alabama A&M, which is cool because he's a Huntsville native, and as he told us, he used to run the stadium steps to stay in shape when he was playing at Kentucky and at Grissom at Lewis Crews Stadium. So really excited for John, and that should be an interesting opener. Troy, good football, good tradition there against a Rebels team where Lane Kiffin's super aggressive in the portal, Brett.
Very aggressive in the portal, almost remade the team, totally remade the running back room, a very good running back room that he had his first 2 years at Ole Miss. And I'm going to say it, I think an opportunity to be even better at the running back position in 2022. Ole Miss led the SEC in rushing in 20 and 21, and that was the first time for Ole Miss to lead the SEC in rushing since they did it 3 straight years in 60, 61, and 62. So going for the three-peat this year, and that running game is, I think, something that people probably didn't associate and stereotype with Lane Kiffin. They think 5 wide and hurry up and throw the ball every down. And it's just not accurate. Now, a lot of those runs are from the quarterback, and you mentioned Matt Corral and his injury against Baylor, but, Ken Jackson Dart or Luke Altmaier step up and fill that role that Matt Corral filled so very well, and especially in that 30 rush effort up at Tennessee last year. So it's going to be fun to see this remade Ole Miss team. College sports, we know those guys. Well, at max, they say, play 4 years. And we know now with the portal and NIL opportunities for everyone out there that you can hardly get to know them before they're gone. It's a very very transactional sport now, and here today, gone tomorrow. But I think Ole Miss will be really good on offense again this year, regardless of who's at quarterback, because it will be quite possibly the best Ole Miss offensive line ever.
Wow.
How does that quarterback battle look? Jackson Dart comes from USC, a transfer portal guy, got a lot of attention coming from USC, but there's other guys there in that stable that want that starting job, and I don't think it's Jackson Dart's all the way.
Scott, it is not. I think on August 1, there won't be a depth chart up, and the first time the depth chart is probably released or even known inside the locker room, I think it will show a competition, and competition is good. Luke Altmaier had his moment in that Sugar Bowl against Baylor, and that Baylor defensive line was some kind of ferocious. Other than Alabama was in a league of its own as defensive line and what it did to our offensive line last year. But Baylor also whipped us pretty good. Even if Matt hadn't have gotten hurt, I think Baylor probably would have had just enough because it was hard moving the ball against them. I mean, it was like they were playing 15, and they flipped the field on one long touchdown return, pick six. But Luke Altmaier had his moments in that game. It was a tough ask for him to come in that setting, but he performed really well. He performed well in the spring. If opening day was tomorrow, this is just my guess. I'm not getting this from anybody with any official. If opening day was tomorrow, I think Luke Altmaier might run out there first.
Very interesting. Of course, he was, again, a guy that Lane Kiffin took a huge interest in recruiting and flipping him from Florida State when he came to Ole Miss. And we didn't see much of him just because of the level of play of Matt Corral. Matt ended up – I knew the guy had arm talent, but was a much better athlete than I even thought when he came to Ole Miss, and Lane Kiffin was able to design an offense around him to do that, much like he did with Blake Sims at Alabama, and he developed Matt Corral into an outstanding pro prospect. We'll see what he can do with Luke Altmaier or Jackson Dart. It's going to be quite a battle there. My question for you is, I know you always like DJ Durkin a lot. We know he left to go coach for my favorite person at Texas ATM. But
mine too.
Yeah, but talk about the new defensive coordinator there and kind of now the coaching staff, because there was a lot of coaching staff attrition after the success at Ole Miss last year.
Well, it was, and that was really over 2 years, so it wasn't a lot for first year and second year, and that's kind of the way of the world. A lot of movement, all the associations, the various coaches have, and it's really out of that Alabama football factory that they all kind of have a link or a tie to. But I really like where we are on defense. Like everybody else, I would maybe love one more big time get after the quarterback type in the defensive line, but I think everybody would probably say that at this time of year. I think everybody would say, I wish I had one more receiver and one more get after the quarterback guy, but you don't, or you may with the portal, but I don't think it will be. Linebacker will be really set. And if I can say that about the offensive line, I'm going to say it about the secondary. Quite possibly the best Ole Miss secondary ever. So, the secondary is always helped by the more you rush the quarterback, the better they play, because you cannot cover these guys forever now. You can't cover them long at all. And you mentioned the job that Coach Kiffin did at Alabama with Blake Sims, and I'm here to praise Blake Sims as one of the all-time great guys, great team guys in the history of the sport. I mean, he should be hallowed at Alabama. I think he is. But that coaching job that Lane Kiffin did with him, that should hang at the coaching quarterback Louvre Museum of coaching jobs.
We were talking about win projections and all that fun stuff. It's just fun to look at and it's fun to talk about. But when you look at Ole Miss's schedule, you can see why maybe getting 10 wins this year is going to be a little different than other years, because you have to go to Baton Rouge, you have to go to Fayetteville, and you have to go to College Station. All three big road games. Yes, you get Alabama at home, and yes, you get Auburn at home. But that's three huge West road trips.
God, that's just the truth. That's just the truth. And you mentioned trips for Ole Miss to Baton Rouge and to Fayetteville. Have not won at either place since '08 when Houston Nutt was head coach.
Wow, I didn't realize it's been that long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one in Baton Rouge that year, one at Fayetteville that year. Only won twice since Arkansas has joined the SEC at Fayetteville. We've had a lot of success in Little Rock, and Arkansas unbelievably won't play us in Little Rock anymore because of it. I don't blame them. And at Fayetteville, in that Fayetteville game will be the second of 3 games. On November 12th, play Alabama. And we're used to this because of the Thursday night Egg Bowl. But we will play 3 games in 12 days. We will play Alabama at home. We'll go to Fayetteville, and then we'll play Mississippi State at home. And I tell everybody out there in the college football world, I think some outside of our footprint really don't believe all we say about the SEC. I would like for everybody else to try that on in a 12-day span. Play Alabama, go to Fayetteville, play your biggest rival. Try that on and then check back with me.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. We know about what the Big Ten pulled off with USC and UCLA. We know Alabama and the SEC and Auburn. What happened at the SEC Media Days last year when we were in Hoover? The big story was Oklahoma and Texas. Looks like that's going to wait potentially to 2025. If you're Greg Sankey, and I know Sankey has been a hot and cold issue with you, Brett, no question about that. What would you do, though? What would be your move if you're the SEC to expand your brand? Because it looks like we're moving to super conferences at this point. I still think the Big 12 and the Pac-12 are heading for a merger at some point.
I think you're probably right on that, Drew. But here's what I want. I want the best league, the biggest brand in the history of college football, conference-wise, is the Southeastern Conference.
Yes.
I want the biggest brand in the history of college football that already has the biggest brand in the history of college football as a member in it, the Alabama Crimson Tide, the biggest brand, the biggest dynasty. They were good in the 20s, in the 1920s. They've been good forever. I want the merger. I want the Soyuz and the Apollo to hook up. I want Notre Dame from sea to shining seas, their TV market, from Los Angeles to New York City, from Boston to Burbank. I want Notre Dame fighting Irish in the SEC, and I have found that a lot of our SEC brethren, a lot of us that are very pro-SEC, some would even say SEC bootlickers. Okay, I will plead guilty to that as well. I have found some with a reluctance to really go all out wanting Notre Dame because I think they're scared to be told no. Look, when I was in 9th grade at junior cotillion, I asked the best-looking girl to dance with me. If she said no, I went to the next one. I want the best-looking college football team out there that's not already in the SEC as a part of the SEC. And if they tell us no, they can laugh and cheer at us. And then when we play you in the playoffs, we'll still beat you.
Well, I still think Scott and I talked about this, about Notre Dame, and we talked to Bill Bender about it this past Saturday. He still thinks that if they do take the plunge, it'll be the Big Ten. They'll leave the ACC with, they're in the ACC in every sport but football. And ultimately, I know there's been some acrimony with the Big Ten and Notre Dame, but that they would work things out and potentially be there. Do you think Greg Sankey could pull that off? Because really, when Brenton Zwerneman, our good friend from the Houston Chronicle, reported, we didn't see Oklahoma and Texas coming. So could he pull that off?
I think he can. I know he's really tight with Jack Swarbrick, and I don't think Jack Swarbrick is that wild about Kevin Warren at the Big Ten.
Who would be?
And exactly. Who could? Maybe Jimbo Fisher and Kevin Warren are friends. They're kind of made for each other. I'm going to tell y'all what Jimbo Fisher, that salvo he unleashed on Coach Nick Saban, that was beyond the pale. He's a two-bit hustler.
He is a liar. That's what I've called him. Yes.
And everything he's got, he can thank Coach Nick Saban and their West Virginia roots for it. He made him, and he was basically saying that the only way Coach Saban has accomplished what he's done was by cutting corners. It's a bold-faced lie. Coach Nick Saban is a college football legend, if not the legend of the game. The only person you put in the argument with him is Coach Bear Bryant. He is a college football leviathan. He will have left it much better than he found it. And for a two-bit hustler like Jimbo Fisher to say what he did, if Bama's up 50, they should be throwing late on October 8th.
I've already said, Scott and we've had some laughs about it. I've said it should. I hope it's 65-0, and they're throwing the ball with 2 minutes to go. I would run it up on him. There's no doubt in my mind. I would not even hesitate if I were Nick Saban. He kind of did that to LSU, and they kept the foot on the pedal in the 2020 pandemic season when they ran up a ton of points in the first half. And into the third quarter, I would keep the pedal down on ATM, and that's what I've been calling them because I thought it was hilarious. He said Nick Saban should be slapped for inferring that they paid a bunch of people, and then you get one of his people in his organization caught on camera basically telling the players how much they're going to get paid for going there. So to me, I agree with you 110%. I've nicknamed him Dirt Neck. I think he's a complete liar. He's a fraud. And really, honestly, if Gus Malzahn and Auburn had not blown a 21-3 lead, the dude would have done nothing at Florida State. He left that program. I'm not even blaming Mike Norvell for this or Willie Taggart. The reason Florida State football is where it is right now is because of him.
Totally, Drew. And last year, ducked his bowl game.
Completely. Yep.
And A&M, while they're going to College Station, I think is my favorite SEC road trip because it's still rather new, and their fans are the nicest fans. But even after this year, they will start becoming impatient because he has promised a bunch and delivered very little. Now, he did have his Orange Bowl win. I'll give him credit for that over Matt Brown. But mostly it has been a whole lot of talk and very little action.
Yeah, it really has.
Yep, it has. It's going to be an interesting SEC West. It's going to be an interesting time for college football. I mean, there's so much going on between conference classification, realignment, NIL. Hopefully, once we get to August, we can finally just play games and not have to be inundated with everything else.
Well, and
we will, Scott, and that's one of the beauties of college football. May and June always gets a little messy and a little ugly, and into July, and then practice starts in August, and then we fire up the fight songs. We hit the field. We fire up game day. We fire up game week talk. It all goes away. And don't let anybody tell you, other than the NFL, it's the number one sport in the country. It's the NFL by 10 miles, and then college football over everything else. And when we get to actual play on the field, everything settles down. Now, I'm going to give you guys one spoiler alert. I can't wait to see you at SEC Media Day. It's going to be undefeated Alabama against undefeated Georgia in the championship game.
Well, I'll tell you this too, Brett. I that's why what you just said. I've had people. Group messages. They think NIL is a horrific, and it's going to be the end of college sports and college football. I disagree. It's going to be regulated eventually because it's too important to everybody. It's what you just said. Second in importance to the NFL, and in the South, it's numero uno and always will
not
be.
Even close.
It's
not even close.
It's not. It's too important, so it will be something that's dealt with. And I think it's going to be really interesting when schools like Miami and Tennessee and Texas A&M, who have been so aggressive with this upfront NIL stuff, 90% of the schools are not. It's going to be interesting when you can't do that anymore and how these schools have to deal with it.
And this one, Drew, and we need to monitor this. How many of those guys did A&M sign that will actually appear on the field at senior day?
Yeah, we talked about that. Scott brought that up in the first hour. Mm-hmm.
It won't be many, but I've been hearing about something was going to derail college football most of my life.
Right.
Really, some of them just really outlandish things. And Theodore Roosevelt, not FDR, but TR, had to assemble the poobahs of college football to the White House in 1900-something, 1908, 1909, because of the violence of the game.
Yeah, that's right.
Almost the entire span of college football history, there's been some looming iceberg that was going to wreck it, and it's not going to be wrecked. It matters too much, and it is a force for good. Defend college football. It drives me crazy to see some of the people in college football now with big prominent jobs, like Pete Thamel, who 2 years ago was wanting to write the obituary for college football.
Yeah, that's why you're a great SEC historian, and we love getting your takes on our show. A great segment once again with Brett Norsworthy. You and Gabe have a great show. I know it's going to be from 3 to
Thank you,
6 on Sports Radio
Brent.
56 WHBQ. We always enjoy catching up. We look forward to seeing you in Atlanta. Thank you for joining us today, Brett. Appreciate it.
It was great, guys. Y'all made me break a sweat. Thank you.
Thank you. That's Brett Norsworthy doing
Not
a great
hard
job.
going to do today when it's going to be 96 degrees and you got a heat advisory. And you can break a sweat by just.
We had a heat advisory last night. I think it was when I lost power for nearly an hour. It was 80 degrees at like 10:30.
It was a little warm. Going to be a little warm again today here in the Tennessee Valley. And it's going to be, it could be a little warm for Josh Heupel and company on Rocky Top. Could be. Maybe. We don't know. What's in store for year 2? How's recruiting going on the Rocky Top Nation? Ryan Callahan will fill us in when we return.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Got a minor accident working at Governor's in California. It's on the inbound side. And we've got a water crew working westbound on Drake between Penny and McVeigh. They're going to have westbound traffic snagged up there for several hours. Cajun rice is back at Popeyes, and their 11-piece chicken family meal with 2 sides and 5 biscuits is now only $22.99. Popeyes, 72 and Jeff, University and Jordan and North Parkway. Captain Nick in the Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
McCurry Motors is your car and van rental headquarters. You can rent the vehicle you need today. Family in town, sporting event, church function, no matter what your need, McCurry Motors has you covered with a wide selection of cars and vans available for rent. They have 12-passenger Mercedes Sprinter vans, 12-passenger Ford Transit vans, 15-passenger Ford Transit vans, and 15-passenger Chevrolet Express vans. They have 2 locations, Highway 72 in Athens or Max Luther Drive in Huntsville.
Things have been a little tight lately, but because Kohl's has more style and more savings, I can still make this the best summer ever. Like today, with the extra 25% off, I got my husband a tank top for under $6 and myself some shorts for just $14.99. Plus, I found sandals for 40% off and earned Kohl's cash. That's a win in my books. Select styles 25% offer ends July 10th. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohls.com for details.
Great food and the best live entertainment is what it's all about at the Furniture Factory Bar and Grill. Head to downtown Huntsville every Tuesday for karaoke on the only outdoor karaoke stage in North Alabama. Thursday night is the Valley's longest running and biggest bike night. Food and drink specials, giveaways, and live music on the patio. And the Furniture Factory menu is fully loaded with options from steaks to salads, plus a whole lot more. Featuring a weekday happy hour that starts at 3. 619 Meridian Street, downtown Huntsville, and online at FurnitureFactoryBarGrill.com.
I'm attorney Gary Lackey. You know, you'll hear people say we're like a family, but here at the Lackey Law Firm, that's really true, not just a saying.
I'm Justin Lackey. With my father and my sister, we have a special connection to each other.
I'm Jennifer Lackey. At the Lackey Law Firm, when we take on your case, you become part of our family. You really do.
And we'll always do whatever it takes to get everything you deserve.
If you're injured, you worry about getting well, not about paperwork or insurance companies or figuring out how to get to your lawyer's office. I'll come to you.
We worry about your case so you don't have to.
When you've been injured, we know that your case is probably the biggest thing going on in your life. More important than almost anything else.
And it's important to us, too, for one simple reason. Family takes care of each other, and at the Lackey Law Firm, we'll take care of you.
The Lackey Law Firm. The Lackey Law Family. 1-800-4RIGHTS.
No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
This is Steve Moulton from The Drive. Join us this afternoon from 5 to 7 with Wes Neighbors and me. Now back to Talkin' Ball with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Welcome back, Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone, and a great conversation there with Brett Norsworthy, kind of looking ahead to Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, the SEC West, kind of where that stands. you turn your attention to the SEC East, we know Georgia's going to be up there again near the top. But who's going to line up behind Georgia? Last year, Josh Heupel and the Tennessee Volunteers surprised a lot of people, did a lot of good things.
I was saying at SEC Media Days that if they had a winning season and he won and they went to a bowl game, that he should be SEC Coach of the Year, because we remember all the talent they lost to the transfer portal, the investigation, and the way Coach Jeremy Pruitt was let go. That it just seemed to be, a lot of, I guess, just uncertainty and instability around the program. But I really thought that, Coach Heupel and his coaching staff got the most out of that team. They should have won the bowl game. They didn't quite finish it.
Hendon Hooker
Purdue.
was a huge,
Hendon Hooker, when he took over at quarterback, it just really
boost.
set them on the right track. And now he's come back for that COVID year, Scott, to give Josh Heupel the QB to build around in year 2.
Question is, did all of that translate to success on the recruiting trail this going in for 2023? Has Josh Heupel been able to build on all of that momentum?
Well, we'll ask our next guest that. He's the recruiting editor for Go Vols 24/7, and, of course, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, Go Vols 24/7, one of the preeminent sources, if not the preeminent one, for UT and Vols in recruiting and, of course, football and athletics information. We've had his colleague Wes Rucker on. They have a great staff there, and he's a huge part of it. And he covers recruiting on a daily basis as the recruiting editor for that website. And Ryan Callahan is with us now on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Ryan, hope you've had a great summer so far. You're staying cool. You're with Drew and Scott in Huntsville. How are you?
Hey, doing all right. How are you guys?
We're doing well, sir. And certainly Tennessee and Josh Heupel have been very aggressive on the recruiting trail. We've talked about the collectives going on. Tennessee has been one of those aggressive schools that's put together a collective and gone after Nico Iamaleava. I think that's the last time we spoke to you when they made waves getting a huge QB commit like that, arguably maybe the biggest quarterback commitment since Peyton Manning chose the Vols. He's going to be the centerpiece of this recruiting class. They're continuing to be aggressive on the trail. They just got a 5-star young man from IMG Academy in the 2024 class. But where would you put it right now, the Tennessee recruiting in Josh Heupel's second year, as he's now established the kind of football program he wants Tennessee to be?
Well, yeah, I think off to a good start still. I still think there's a lot to be decided about just how this recruiting class is going to look in the end. Still some needs to address. They had some big wins. They've already had some losses. Obviously, with a lot of players coming off the board already. They had some losses back in the spring. So they've I think people are learning. It's good to have a collective, and obviously we don't know all the details of what Tennessee is able to do with that, but they were one of the more visible collectives out there, and I think people thought early on that, hey, they're one of the ones you hear the most about. That's going to allow Tennessee to win some battles. I think we're finding now that a lot of collectives are getting up to speed and have quickly caught up to even the ones that might have had an early advantage, and that there's a limit to what you can accomplish with just an aggressive collective. And I think people are finding that Tennessee still faces some of the challenges that it's had all along, and there's no shortcut for just winning and getting guys to the NFL being a big part of your recruiting success. So they're certainly on the right track, having some success in the mix for some the types of guys that they really weren't in the running for very much in recent years, but still not having trouble. But I think they've had some reminders in recruiting that you're not going to win all of these just overnight, and that certainly it's a very competitive landscape in recruiting in general, just with NIL and everything that comes with that.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and Tennessee's in the mix. You mentioned in the mix. They are definitely in the mix for a lot of guys, a lot of announcements in the next couple of weeks that could go and could really help Tennessee.
Absolutely, and we'll start with today. There's a big time Tennessee target announcing this afternoon. Cameron Seldon, a 4-star athlete from Virginia, He's from kind of rural Virginia, a couple hours south of D.C., and that's been a Tennessee-Penn State battle down the stretch. So a top 25 player nationally in 24/7 Sports ranking. This would be a big deal, and certainly fill one of a couple of big needs for Tennessee on offense as a possible receiver or running back. If they can get a guy like that, you've got a 4-star offensive lineman, Shamrod Umarov, from the Atlanta area, announcing tomorrow, and that's been more of a Tennessee-Georgia battle down the stretch as he gets ready to make his decision. So certainly some big pieces getting ready to come off the board. They've already had, you mentioned, earlier, Jonathan Eccles, the 5-star 2024 athlete who picked Tennessee on Monday. That was certainly a big pickup. And then, obviously going back to earlier this year, after getting Nico Iamaleava, they get Caleb Herring, the in-state edge rusher, the number one player from the state of Tennessee and a top 100 player nationally. You get him this spring. So they've had some big pickups certainly along the way. Also had some, had some misses. They missed out after having a very good shot, I think, at the end. 5-star offensive lineman Francis Mauingoa from IMG Academy in Florida picking Miami over Tennessee on Monday. So again, you're going to take the good with the bad, and there's no shortcut for success with all this collective stuff. But I think that's something Tennessee fans have had to try to figure out, along with coaches and everybody else that's new to the NIL era. This is, everyone's kind of finding their way through it, and I think Tennessee's done a good job. But there's just there's a limit to what you can accomplish with just an aggressive collective, and let's face it, there are not unlimited resources either. So even if you have a collective that's out there and doing a good job, you're not going to win every battle because there's so many collectives now getting up to speed that it's a matter of allocating resources and making priorities because everyone's got money out there. Everyone's got fans that want to win.
Oh, they do. And again, you also have to understand everybody is signing players out there, signing 25 plus guys. There's a lot of football players out there. You're going to get your share. You can't. I think sometimes people focus too much on losing a battle. Like I think Peter Woods is probably going to commit to Clemson tomorrow. We'll see. Things can change. But as I've said, I've told some people he still has to sign with Clemson in December. Perhaps he does. But we've seen that even some of these guys that Tennessee has initially missed on, perhaps they don't ultimately sign with the school they commit to. But even if they do, sometimes, Ryan, it's how you react, and it's the players that you actually do sign if you quote unquote miss on a target. If you have a board that is talented and you've done a good job of evaluating, you can still bring quality student athletes in. And I think that's probably what Josh Heupel and his staff are going to concentrate on. They've got 14 commitments. I think they're 11th right now in the 24/7 Sports composite. So still, I would say comparatively in some other years, I think it's a strong start.
Yeah, it is. It's a strong start, as you said. They've addressed some needs. They've got some big time talents in this class. Certainly, there's room to improve, but I think they're so early in the rebuilding process that having misses like Francis Mauingoa and Carnell Tate, the 5-star receiver from IMG Academy. That was another one Tennessee led for, I think, at one point this spring, and then Ohio State wins that one in the end. So having some of those types of losses certainly makes it harder to envision a path to stay a top 5 class, which I think for some Tennessee fans were starting to eye as a real possibility at one point once you start to hear some of the options out there. And I kind of reminded some people this spring, I'm a little cautious about saying that a top 5 class is a real possibility. That just takes a lot of work in this era with Texas A&M, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, all those programs that have had such dominant recruiting in recent years. You've really got to stack a lot of talent together to be up in that top 5 range. But I said, hey, a top 10 class is a realistic goal. Even that's going to be tougher now. I think we're seeing as schools like LSU catch up after slow starts under new coaching staffs. USC making waves in recruiting. Texas and Penn State having great years. It's a tough year, so they're going to win their share of battles, and they have so far. But how high they finish in the rankings is just going to depend on how many more of those they can win. And it's again, everything that's happened is a reminder that Tennessee's, they won 7 games last year. That was a nice start. They had some guys drafted. That was also a nice start. Got to keep doing that. You got to do it for more than just 1 year and kind of start stacking success on the field as well.
That's where I was going to go next. I mean, if they're in some battles right now, but if they go out and have another, if they put together a 7 and 8 win season here, back up last year, that's going to make it a little easier for some of these guys to make that final choice.
Yeah, some are even predicting them to finish second in the East.
Absolutely. This year's a big opportunity for them. If you're a Tennessee fan looking for the long-term path to competing for championships again, this year is at least an opportunity to maybe shave some time off of how long it might take to chase down the Georgias of the world that are obviously just on a different level right now with their recruiting and competing for national championships. It's going to take a lot. I've said it. You may be looking at a 5-6 year process to chase down programs that are recruiting just at that level with how much talent they have. But yeah, if you're trying to get there, overachieve in a year like this where you have a senior quarterback in Hendon Hooker, a senior wide receiver in Cedric Tillman, an offense that brings back enough pieces that you should be expected to score a lot of points this year. And at least some guys coming back on defense that give you a chance to build on what you had last year, even if it's maybe not going to be a dominant defense. Certainly no reason to think they're going to be that good, but you just need to slow some teams down sometimes with the type of offense they have. But if you can do all of that, find a way to win 8, maybe 9 games this year and be a little bit ahead of schedule in terms of on-field success, then you get a chance to really speed things up. So we'll see how much they can build on what they did last year, but certainly Hendon Hooker and Cedric Tillman at least give you a chance to be in a lot of games and to be competitive. And they've got some important games right off the bat this year, Pittsburgh and Florida in the month of September. To me, those are 2 huge opportunities for Tennessee. You go undefeated in the month of September, a lot of possibilities are out there. You lose those 2 games, which they lost both to both of those teams last year in September. You lose those 2 games, it gets a little bit harder to envision the kind of breakthrough year they'd like to have.
Yeah, they started quickly against Pitt last year, but they couldn't ultimately stop Kenny Pickett and those guys, and that Panther offense that was so good, and of course ended up winning the ACC championship. But with Tennessee, you mentioned it 3 days ago, though. They get a great athlete as part of the class, Christian Conyer from the state of Kentucky. And to me, that's, I thought significant because of what Mark Stoops has done. He's done a remarkable job improving Kentucky's recruiting. But to go in there and get a 4-star, a guy that could project defensively, could be a DB, could be a wide receiver, but he's a quality athlete. I thought it still signaled that Tennessee is on the right track and that they have a lot of momentum.
No question. That was a big win for Tennessee, and I'll tell you that turned into a major recruiting battle down the stretch. Kentucky, that was one they wanted really badly. They've taken some losses this year in recruiting. Louisville's having a great year up there, and they're hearing a lot about that all the time. Haven't had a lot of big wins against SEC opponents, and obviously Ohio State to the north still recruiting well. So they needed that one, and they've had some wins against Tennessee in recent years. So that was one they were hoping to kind of turn the tide in their recruiting this year. Didn't work out that way for Kentucky. They did make a nice pickup this week after that, but Christian Conyer would have meant a lot to Kentucky, being what a lot of people consider the top player from the state of Kentucky in the 2023 class. Tennessee, essentially viewed him as an in-state player. He's from Bowling Green, Kentucky, just across the state line there, and plays on a Nashville-based 7-on-7 team, Tennessee Select, where among his teammates on that team have been Elijah Herring and Cameron Miller, who are now freshmen at Tennessee, and now the Tennessee commitment 4-star edge rusher Caleb Herring. So he certainly had some connections to Tennessee. There were reasons to think they could win that one, but it was still a real battle in the end, and sort of a Tennessee-Kentucky race for months. So a nice win there, as you said, probably projects as a cornerback. I think that that athlete label, I think you'll see that change to cornerback, because I don't really know of anyone who is recruiting him as a wide receiver, but he does have some two-way capability in high school that makes you think he's a good athlete who is going to do well at corner in the SEC, and that's a position Tennessee has often struggled in recruiting to win big-time battles. So a nice win there for Tennessee, and certainly addressed a big-time need with them needing help in the secondary.
They have, and Ryan, and we're talking to Ryan Callahan, recruiting editor, GoVols 24/7. The one thing I have noticed as well, and this is a wise move, they did not get Francis Maigoa, who's arguably maybe the number one OT in the country at IMG Academy, but they've been very aggressive recruiting offensive linemen. I know they feel like they need to upgrade there. Tennessee in the years past, in their salad days in the 80s and 90s, they churned out a lot of OLs that went to the NFL. Hasn't happened as much lately. Trey Smith is having a good career with Kansas City. He had some health concerns there, was a really good player, but getting Nico Iamaleava is not the only answer. They've done a good job. They're trying to build an offensive line around him. Talk about maybe Tennessee's chances with some other targets like Lucas Simmons. Where does the O-line kind of recruiting stand for Tennessee right now?
Yeah, I think they're in an okay spot, but need to win some battles that look like they are coming to their conclusions here pretty soon. They do have an in-state lineman, Aiden Fussell, that was among their earlier commitments, and then they have a two-way lineman, Trevor Duncan from nearby Knoxville Catholic, that has actually seen his stock and ratings rise even since he committed to Tennessee in the spring. So I think those are potentially, if Duncan's an offensive lineman in the long run, those are potentially two nice pickups there in state. But yeah, they've missed on a couple here in the past month or so. Bryson Sanders in state, a four-star offensive lineman from Chattanooga who got away from them, picking Ole Miss over Tennessee. And then the Maigoa loss, certainly hurt Tennessee to miss out on potentially a top 10 player in the country, a kind of a no-brainer talent who just could be a mauler in the run game. So even without him, though, a few good possibilities out there. Shamrod Umaro from the Atlanta area, I mentioned, will be making his decision tomorrow. Tennessee and Georgia, the front runners there, but Michigan State and LSU also among the finalists. So if they can pull that one off, and I would give Tennessee the slight edge right now, that would be a nice pickup for Tennessee to get a big guy like that, 6'6", 337 or so. So maybe not a Maigoa type early impact guy, but certainly has the chance to be that kind of mauling run blocker at right tackle most likely. And then a couple other tackle bodies. That's what they really need in this class. Need to continue to stack those tackle bodies they've had trouble getting, and Lucas Simmons, as you said, is one of them. Stanton Ramil from Thompson High School there in Alabama. Certainly another one to watch there. Tennessee's done a nice job with them. Hearing that maybe Michigan State could be their main competition for him at the moment, but certainly Clemson and Penn State also heavily involved there. Auburn continues to try, but haven't heard as much Auburn talk lately in that one. But certainly Tennessee has a real shot at him, and he looks to maybe make a decision sometime this month. Lucas Simmons, we now know, is announcing his decision on Monday afternoon, and Tennessee is kind of quietly put itself in position to have a shot there. It looks like a Tennessee-Florida State battle from what I've heard here down the stretch, but Florida and USC are the other finalists. Florida State's the one you've heard the most about in that recruitment, but Tennessee has done a nice job to give itself a chance, and that's one if they could pull a mild upset there would be a huge deal. That's a talented kid with a high ceiling that could give you a kind of prototypical left tackle type body. So those are three big names out there that Tennessee's hoping to close on, and those would go a long way toward making this a pretty good offensive line class.
No doubt. Well, great stuff from Ryan Callahan, GoVols 24/7. Let everybody know how to connect with you guys, Ryan. I know you've been running a special, and as you said, some big news could be coming down the pipe for Tennessee even today and into tomorrow and the month of July. But let everybody know how to connect with you.
Yeah, we just unfortunately just had our sale run out earlier this week. We had a 2 months for $1 special, but still you can sign up right now, $1 for the first month or 30% off for the first year to check out GoVols 24/7. So great time to check out the site. And if you're a recruiting fan, there's no better time to join. Tons going on right now, and a lot more still to happen throughout the month of July, which becomes unofficial commitment month across the country. I swear with all the June visits, July is kind of the stretch run in a lot of ways. So lots to keep track of in recruiting and plenty of coverage leading up to the start of preseason camp in just a few weeks at GoVols247.com.
Thank you, Ryan.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Ryan Callahan with us. With that, we say our final break of the morning. Here's tomorrow's headlines. Lead your way off next.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
At one rack, governors in California on the inbound side, they may still be trying to get it cleared up. And we got a water crew on Drake. They're going to have westbound traffic affected for a good part of the day. That's between McVeigh and Penny. With more than 30 years experience, D&L Refrigeration can save you money on those heating and air conditioning repairs. 256-652-1207. State license 08091. Captain Nick in the Jordan Lane Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
If you're ready to lower your utility bills, it's time to call Eagle Insulation. Eagle can handle it all. Attic re-insulation, insulation removal, wall insulation, and new construction insulation, commercial and residential. Our primary goal is to save you money, and lots of it. Typical clients realize their return on investment within 3 to 6 months. That means the re-insulation actually pays for itself and then some. See if we can help you. Contact Eagle Insulation today, 256-755-1556, or log on insulatewitheagle.com.
You've got to experience Toyotathon at Bill Penny Toyota. They've got the selection with over 700 new Toyotas to choose from. And they've got the extras with Bill Penny perks and a 10-year unlimited warranty. So get on over to Bill Penny Toyota today and experience Toyotathon. Bill Penny Toyota in Huntsville and online at BillPennyToyota.com. Bill Penny's Toyota 10-year unlimited warranty is valid through the 10th year of ownership. Valid on new vehicles only. See dealer for details.
This is Wes Neighbors talking to Chris Haygood of Bob Wallace Appliance. Chris, what sets you apart from other appliance dealerships?
Wes, these appliances are going into the most used room in your house, your kitchen. The way we have these appliances displayed, it's easy for you to visualize how they'll look in your home. Wes, what sets us apart is the people. They're well trained. In fact, they live and breathe these appliances. And if you need service, you'll really appreciate our parts department.
Contact Bob Wallace Appliance at 256-533-2121.
In 1982, Bob Baumhauer introduced Alabama to the Buffalo Wild Wing, and quite frankly, we've never been the same. Back then, it was Wings and Things in Tuscaloosa, but now, 40 years later, after 4 name changes, Baumhauer's Victory Grill is the #1 sports-themed restaurant in the state. Bob's Alabama Hot Chicken is something that has to be tried to believe, plus the new Bam Bam Chicken and the Louisiana-style Go Fish, a whitefish over rice topped with shrimp etouffee. And Baumhauer's is fighting inflation with some new affordable favorites. Visit Baumhauer's on the South Parkway today.
Tired of the same old menu options everywhere you go? Then you need to try Metro Diner in Huntsville and Madison. The award-winning Metro Diner serves up signature dishes like their Charleston shrimp and grits, famous fried chicken and waffles with strawberry butter, and lots more. Their entire menu is available anytime, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And stop by for brunch on Saturday or Sunday and enjoy the lowest price mimosas in town. Airport Road, Huntsville, and Highway 72 in Madison. In diner or at home, make it Metro Diner.
Hey, North Alabama, this is Chuck Oliver. We've got college football all over the place, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
Where would this college be without football?
Listen to me weekdays at noon on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
It's time for tomorrow's headlines today with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. And things continue to fall out from the USC-UCLA move to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
UCLA did announce, their athletic director came out and said about 3 or 4 days after they made the move that had they not left the Pac-12 and gone to the Big Ten, they were facing extreme financial hardship and were getting ready to cut several Olympic sports because financially they were running in the red big time.
Because of this Larry Scott, we talked about it. That's why he was dismissed as the commissioner of the Pac-12. Their TV deal has been lacking. Their schools are not making money, and that's why ultimately, Scott, I know his replacement, I think, is
Klavikoff or however you want to say it.
I think he's approaching his 1-year anniversary here. But I still say, and we were talking with Brett Norsworthy about this earlier in the hour, that the Pac-12 is done. I think they're going to disintegrate and going to merge eventually with the Big 12.
Over the last 3 fiscal years, UCLA was $102.8 million in debt as an athletic department.
Wow.
Before making that move to the Big Ten, where they're just ready to secure a $1 billion media rights deal that'll give each school around $100 million every year.
So Bill wasn't able to keep them afloat.
Yeah. Oh, he kept them afloat. All right. They were flying high.
Oh.
Just in a completely different aspect.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge, though. It's all about the money. And that's
it's completely about the money.
USC and UCLA are doing, and they're seeing the huge boon they can get financially from the Big Ten, and it will help UCLA out. You just talked about it exponentially with their athletic department being able to get out of debt and not have to cut sports. And we saw on a much smaller scale at UAH when they had to cut tennis.
Right, and men's hockey.
And eventually hockey, which hockey for many, many years defined their athletic department.
Yes.
But it's been kind of a sad situation to see.
All right, Gene Chizik, the new defensive coordinator. Remember Gene Chizik, the new defensive?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We talked to him at SC Media Days a few times.
Yep. He said that he has zero aspirations in becoming a head coach again.
Yeah.
He's happy to be a defensive coordinator. He wants to do everything he can for Mac Brown, North Carolina. But he says he's done that. He's been there. He's done that. He goes, am I going to be a head coach? That means nothing to me. I've done all I can do in that. So I just want to make that very clear. That's not in my wheelhouse.
Well, this is the second tenure for him, I believe, at North Carolina. And of course, he's worked for Mac at Texas as well. He helped them win a national championship, I believe, in 2005 when they were able to beat the USC Trojans. And that's one of the reasons why Gene got a head coaching job at Iowa State and then at Auburn, won a national championship in 2010. I thought he was a good analyst with the SEC Network. He certainly could have kept making good money doing television and radio and things of that nature. But I think once you get the coaching bug, it's hard to stay out. And there was a previous relationship there with Mac Brown. They've been struggling defensively. He was trying to find the right fit there and to completely trust Gene Chizik. And it'll be interesting to see how quickly North Carolina can improve and if North Carolina is ultimately in the SEC.
Yeah, could be. Because the Czar did shed some light that if 8 ACC teams make that move out of the conference, nobody gets stuck with those media rights until 2035. Those kind of dissolve.
Yeah.
And the conference can move on. So not as ironclad as what we thought, but there is room for some teams to move on from the ACC. Other headlines, really kind of big news. Bryce Young named the Roy Kramer Athlete of the Year. The SEC naming Bryce Young your Athlete of the Year. It's the second straight year that Alabama has captured that award. Devontae Smith got it the year before.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce Young got it this past year. They just announced this yesterday, I believe, for Bryce Young. But being the Roy Kramer Athlete of the Year, his female counterpart, no shock here, South Carolina forward Elijah Boston, the basketball player that helped South Carolina win
another national championship.
Aaliyah
Boston,
yeah,
she's
Aaliyah
a great
Boston,
player.
yeah.
And I wanted to say something too because I was reading about this today. It was released by in Boston, but by the folks that do such a great job researching CTE and what. And we talked about mental health too with JV and Cohen earlier in the week with Alabama. But Demarius Thomas, who passed away in December, who was a 10-year NFL veteran, a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl 50 with Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos, had a really good pro career.
33.
Yeah, he passed away.
33?
He was found, in his home.
Yeah.
He had, and one of his problems was in 2019 he started having seizures, which it's been well documented now what I went through It's a scary situation. He eventually passed away due to these seizures. He had several while he was driving. I guess they couldn't get them under control. And then now they donated his brain for research, and he had stage 2 CTE, which,
Yes.
For much of his career, led to some of these issues, probably led to the seizures. It's become a huge topic, especially in football, because of the head trauma and the physicality of the sport. It's why targeting basically was created, where you can't do that because of all the leading with your helmet and leading to these brain injuries. And so, again, just
the violent collisions that
exactly.
happen. What they say that each time that you get hit, it's like being in a serious car accident every time you get hit.
Well, I'll never forget we lost the great Benny Perrin,
Yes.
who played at Alabama and in the NFL for maybe one of the greatest athletes in North Alabama and Decatur high school history. And a lot of his was brain trauma as well. It's a very serious situation. And again, prayers to his family, and it's some insight into what was really happening with his health situation. But it's a very serious issue, no doubt.
No, it is, and it's something that has changed the game.
It has.
They've tried to make it safe in several aspects. You can't take hitting completely out of football, but they're going to do something. I mean, they'll keep innovating the helmets and the
in the last 10 to 15 years,
yes.
It's become a huge part of it.
Yes.
We thank Ryan Callahan, though. We thank, of course, Brett Norsworthy and our callers, but another great show.
We'll be back at it tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock. Talking Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. The countdown is on. SEC Media Days quickly, and I mean quickly, approaching.
The world champs are back. The Braves are out to defend their world championship. And behind Matt Olson, Ronald Acuna, Dansby Swanson, Max Fried, and this loaded 2022 roster, a repeat is within reach.
There goes Ozzie, 2-2 on the way, hit well. Deep center field.